So, since the weather outside is kind of grey right now, let's talk about what to shoot when there is no sun outside and the sky is a giant softbox. I mean, it's not really as hard as people often think. So, the first tip that I will give is related to the settings, more specifically exposure. Because you see, during cloudy days, light meter tends to be a little off. And this is why in these situations I recommend to overexpose your photos a little. And I'm telling you that because in this weather you kind of only have two options. Either the subject is underexposed and the sky is perfect, or the sky is overexposed and the subject is perfect. And the whole reason why overexposing your photos is a good idea is actually pretty simple. Because let me ask you something. How often do you need the sky to be properly exposed? Not that often, honestly. In some cases, yeah. But in 90% of cases, the sky might as well be a white blob. Since, you know, it's not an important part of the photo, people don't really look at it as much. So simply don't worry and overexpose. Negative space is a thing that I often see being forgotten. But you might ask, how much do I need to overexpose? Well, I myself usually do a third of a stop, because 90% of the time it tends to work perfectly. But in extreme situations, you might even go as much as one stop over. I mean, alright, you don't need to do that, but trust me, you will like the photo more if you get the technical parts at the beginning. And while yes, editing is a thing that I recommend doing, it's not a substitute for having things correctly in your camera. And please remember that this is not a hard set rule. Underexposing even in these conditions can work. So just use your head and remember that in general overexposing tends to work, but not always. Alright, technical part done. Now let's talk about creativity. Now, when it comes to bad weather, we, as photographers, can no longer rely on light to make our photos better. We have to rely on subject and composition to make the photo work and look good in general. We must simply ask ourselves, is there a subject? Is the composition good? And what is in the frame? Mediocre photos will no longer look good because of the glowing sky ball. So we simply have to think harder. And we have to think more about what's in the frame, because now light isn't helping us to guide the viewer's eye. Another thing that I would recommend doing is to get closer to the subject. This way you have to rely less on the light to make things work. And of course, using longer focal lengths will help with that. They allow you to get closer to the detail. I mean, this is kind of their purpose. But obviously shoot with whatever you want. For example, 90% of the time I use a 50mm lens. Another thing to remember is that you have a lot, and I mean a lot, of soft and diffused light. And that gives you a lot of possibilities. I mean, soft light is considered to be the most beautiful kind of light. It's debatable, but generally. But if you are trying to do portrait or street photography, go ahead. This light might be actually perfect for this. However, this kind of light has two main problems. The first one is that it feels kind of cold. I won't really get into it that much because you can counteract it and change your white balance to be slightly warmer. But another thing that isn't as easy corrected is the problem of creating depth in the photo. Because you know, there isn't light to do that for you. You have to do it other way. This is why I recommend in this weather specifically to lower your aperture. The purpose is to create additional background blur, which obviously will separate your subject from the background. And it will also let in more light, which is very useful when the weather is like this. Or if you don't want, or you can't do that, try to compose your photo so that the subject is farther away from the background. This way it will naturally become more blurry. And there is also another thing that I would recommend doing. So if you really, and I mean you really don't want to go outside in bad weather, don't. There are interesting things or items to shoot at your home or in any other building. And please don't give me the excuse that your home is boring. I mean, maybe it is, but there is also product photography and experimenting with different techniques. So when I don't want to photograph outside for one reason or another, I simply stay at home and photograph there. It's pretty fun, honestly. But what if you don't want to shoot outside? What if you want to go on a walk and shoot photos there, but without recreating the Eastern European vibe? Go after it gets dark. I mean, yeah, it's less applicable in the summer, but it's still a thing you can do. And you can do this as long as you live in, I don't know, at least a small city. Basically, if there are street lights, you can do this. Because in cities, small or big, there is a lot of lighting potential after it gets dark. It's all artificial, sure, but it's light nonetheless. And because it's all artificial, it's different from the natural light. And that gives it kind of a different vibe. and you can easily photograph after work or school, so you are not time constrained either. So go learn it won't hurt you, and it will also be pretty enjoyable, at least it was for me. And when it comes to bad weather, please remember this: humans tend to be waterproof, and camera gear, even non-weather sealed one, works in the rain. And if you are scared, you can use an umbrella or something to protect it. But why am I telling you this? Well, you see, a lot of photographers avoid bad weather like some kind of plague, which honestly is weird for me, because similarly to night photography, there is a lot of potential and it's pretty fun. But because of that, if you shoot when it's raining or snowing, you might stand out just a little bit. So hey, go ahead and try it out. There is a lot you can do. So yeah, overcast and bad weather is not the easiest time to shoot at. But it's not impossible, so go try it. All you need to have is some creativity and some determination, because honestly, without them you won't get anywhere. But if you have them, believe me, it will be fun. It's not that hard after you practice it for a day or two. So what can I say? Stay safe out there and see ya. Bye.